Imagine sitting in a room where the air feels heavy, not because it is hot, but because everyone knows the clock is ticking. People bring charts, targets, numbers, and graphs. People talk about tons and degrees. People talk about timelines and pathways. And still, in the middle of all that, one simple feeling keeps coming back. Something is missing. Not the facts. Not the science. Not even the technology. What is missing is the part that tells us why we should care when it gets hard, and who we are really protecting when we make choices. That missing part is ethics. It sounds like a big word, but it is actually a small daily question. What is right, and what is wrong? And if we keep that question outside the room will still make decisions, but those decisions will drift toward what is easiest for the powerful, not what is fair for the vulnerable. The context is that many global meetings about climate have become very technical. That is not a bad thing. We need good measurements. We need clear goals. We need serious plans. But there is a pattern that happens when a process becomes too technical. Regular people feel pushed to the edge. Communities who live with floods and drought feel like visitors in a place that is supposed to be about their lives. Even people who care deeply can start to feel tired or numb, because the conversation becomes a language only experts can speak. And then, quietly, the main question changes. It stops being how do we protect life and it becomes how do we protect the system as it is. This is where an ethical stocktake matters. It is like a reset button. Not a reset of facts, but a reset of attention. It asks us to look again at what we have been doing, and to ask if it matches our values. The first insight is the surface one. Ethics brings people back into the center. When you talk only about numbers, it can feel like climate is a problem in the sky. Like it is floating above us. But when you talk about right and wrong, climate becomes a problem in kitchens and hospitals and farms. It becomes a problem of a mother walking through a flooded street with a child. It becomes a problem of an older man choosing between medicine and electricity after a heat wave raises prices. It becomes a problem of a family moving because the land that fed them no longer produces. Ethics makes the problem human again. And it also makes the solutions human again. Because people do not move only from fear. People move from meaning. If you have ever tried to change a habit, you know this. If you only tell yourself facts, you might still not change. But if you connect the habit to a value, like respect, care, or dignity, you suddenly have energy. The same is true for societies. The second insight is a hidden assumption that often drives these big meetings. The assumption is that if we just know enough, we will do the right thing. We like this idea because it feels clean. It feels simple. It says education leads to action. But real life is not like that. Many people already know the truth and still delay. Many companies already see the risk and still keep pushing old systems. Many governments already hear the warnings and still choose the short-term comfort. So the problem is not only lack of knowledge. The problem is also what people are loyal to. What are they accountable to? Are they accountable to voters? To markets? To donors? To shareholders? To their children? To the future? To life beyond humans? This is not a small detail. It shapes everything. Think about your own day. If you say you care about sleep, but you are accountable to a phone that keeps buzzing, you will still stay awake. If you say you care about health, but you are accountable to a work culture that praises exhaustion, you will still skip rest. Accountability is the hidden engine. Ethics forces that engine into the light. It asks, who benefits from this choice, and who pays? It asks, who is missing from the room when the choice is made? And once you ask that, it becomes harder to hide behind technical words. The third insight is a structural pattern. When ethics is absent, the system rewards what is profitable, not what is protective. This is not because people are always evil. It is because systems have habits. A system can be unfair even if some people inside it are kind. The system can keep running on old fuel even if many people inside it want change. Because money moves faster than conscience. Because the rules were written long ago. Because incentives are strong. And because delay is easy when the cost is carried by someone far away. You can see this pattern in simple things. A company may say it supports clean energy, but still invest in what gives quick returns. A city may say it cares about trees, but still cut them for a wider road. A person may say they care about the planet, but still buy what is cheap and convenient because life is busy and bills are real. Ethics does not solve all that with one speech. But it changes the direction of the conversation. It stops the pretending. It stops the calm voice that says, "This is just how it works." Because ethics answers, "No, this is how it works because we allow it. And if we invented it, we can change it." Now comes a reframing. An ethical stocktake is not about adding guilt on top of fear. It is not about shouting at people. It is about drawing a bigger circle. Many of our choices are based on a small circle. The circle includes me, my team, my country, my comfort, my short term. That circle feels natural because it is close. But a climate crisis does not fit inside a small circle. So we have to practice a wider circle. A circle that includes people who did the least harm but feel the worst impacts. A circle that includes future generations who cannot vote today. A circle that includes non-human life, not because it is cute, but because it is part of the living system that keeps us alive. When you widen the circle, the same decision looks different. A new oil project is not just an investment. It becomes a bet against the safety of people you will never meet. A delayed finance promise is not just a budget issue. It becomes a choice that leaves someone unprotected during the next disaster. A clean energy plan that ignores local communities is not just an oversight. It becomes another form of extraction, just wearing different clothes. Ethics helps us see that. It also helps us see something else. That hope is not a mood. Hope is a practice. It is built by acting in line with values even when the outcome is not guaranteed. That is why ethics is powerful. It gives people a reason to stay in the work when results are slow. Application to daily life might sound strange when we are talking about global meetings, but it matters. Because big systems are made of many small habits. And the same distortions happen at home. For example, when you scroll on your phone and feel tired and you keep scrolling anyway, it is often because the system is designed to reward attention, not well-being. When you buy something you do not need, it is often because the system is designed to reward desire, not contentment. When you feel powerless, it is often because the system teaches you to see yourself as a small consumer, not as a person with agency. Ethics is a way to take that agency back. You can practice it by asking simple questions. Why am I seeing this? Why am I being pushed toward this? Who gains from this being normal? Who loses? And then you can practice one small act of alignment. It might be choosing a product that lasts longer. It might be supporting a local repair shop. It might be learning where your energy comes from. It might be talking with a friend about what you value instead of only what you fear. These seem small, but they train the mind. They train you to see the link between values and choices. And that is exactly what the ethical lens is trying to do at a larger scale. Now, an optional deepening, without adding new topics, is to stay with the feeling of moral clarity for a moment. Many people avoid ethics because they fear conflict. They fear being judged. They fear that the conversation will turn into blame. That fear is understandable. But there is another risk that is even bigger. The risk of living inside a story where right and wrong do not matter anymore. Where everything is just strategy. Where every promise is flexible. Where every harm is explained away as necessary. In that story, people lose trust. They stop believing leaders. They stop believing institutions. And then even good policies become harder to build because nobody trusts anyone. Ethics is not soft. Ethics is actually a foundation for trust. When people feel that the process is fair, they can accept hard changes. When people feel that sacrifices are shared, they can cooperate. When people feel seen, they can stay engaged. So an ethical stocktake is not a decoration. It is not a nice speech before the real work. It is part of the real work because it keeps the work honest. And it also gives a kind of calm courage. The kind of courage that says, we can face what is true without hiding. We can say what is at stake without arguing about whether it is too negative. We can admit that choices have consequences. And then we can choose with open eyes. When you think about the future of this ethical lens, the most important part might not be whether it becomes a permanent item on an agenda. The most important part might be whether people bring it into every room, every decision, every plan, and whether they keep asking who is centered and who is missing. Because the climate crisis is not only a test of technology. It is a test of values. It is a test of whether we can act like we belong to each other. It is a test of whether we can become loyal to life instead of loyal to profit and habit. And if that is true, then the ethical stocktake is not just about measuring how we are doing. It is about reminding us who we want to be, when nobody is watching and when it is easier to look away. So when you think about your own choices and the systems you live inside, what would change if you asked one more time, who am I accountable to, and does this choice match the circle of care I want to live by?